yeah, I kind of just put together these 3 sounds from a synth called the Super 6, which is a binaural synth. I don't really know what that means, but all I noticed is that it sounded really wide and really powerful. So I whacked the portamento up and went in between octaves. So I was going between all the different A's, hopefully eventually reaching kind of a 3 octave spread of the A. So I'll play it now. So yeah, that's kind of that was the idea for the intro of the song. That's kind of the seed of it. There wasn't much going on. I mean, this is the original project, but I know in the mix we added a lot of distortion just to kind of make it a little bit more embedded into the feel of the song. So then we go on to some like distorted drums. I think this was just a sample that I found on Splice, and then added a bit of crunch with Saturn and then some enveloper, but I bounced it out, so no idea. So yeah, that's essentially how we start the song. And then I think the 2 most important parts of the song is the Super 6 and then the vocals. I think they're the things that really kind of try to draw you in. So I'll show you the vocals. And the vocals are pretty simple. It's just repeating Animal over and over again. But I found this really neat plugin called Vocal Multiplier. It basically just makes you sound like a choir, which is really cool. And it's kind of inspired a lot of the new music, was just that idea of being able to have 32 versions of myself. So if I show it you dry, this is the first one. This is it without the vocal multiplier. There we go. So like super auto-tune, just to make sure that it's staying kind of in that range, keeping it safe. It's not meant to be like a focus kind of lyric, it's just meant to be a feeling. So when you combine that with everything, we basically have, so that's with the plugin on it. Yeah, so it's kind of like almost churchy. I don't know. It felt a bit religious in the melody. I think this was the one that really excited me when I started kind of singing it in my head. Yeah, and then it's holding on that note and then has that going up and over it. I think it just felt really cinematic, which is always great. You can't really beat that. So yeah, all together we've got So yeah, and then we're into the verse, which is a super kind of, it's a massive, I think it feels like a massive contrast to what came before. Obviously, at the start of the song, you're really, at least for this one for me, I was trying to really build that energy and just absolutely kind of draw you in as much as possible, or at least draw myself in as well, was one of the biggest things. Because at the time of writing this, you know, it'd been a long time since I'd finished any music, and for any artist, you know, that's just, it's heartbreaking. So to kind of get to that point of finding something that's so random in those 3 synth lines and that vocal line that just excited me was it was really cool, and it felt really fresh. And it had been a while since I'd made like an angry song, so this was my angry song of the whole EP. I think the rest of it is pretty uplifting. So yeah, we go from this massive thing into this like super dry, almost not punky, but it reminds me a little bit when I was doing it. It reminded me a bit of kind of that kind of indie vocal line that's a bit more minor and a bit more kind of like simple but aggressive, I think was the kind of feeling. So to do that, I like to keep the drums, they're running all the way through. But I added 2 bass lines. So the first one was just a live bass. And I think somewhere there is, I had like a little lead into it where I went dun dun. But yeah, so you've got that. Yeah, so that's just a live bass with sample delay on it to make it feel stereo, because I probably couldn't be asked to record the stereo line. I'm sure you can see from my project I'm very lazy with that. I just like to get everything out and then sort it out later. So this is version 1. There's like probably 15 versions of this song that are a lot tidier. So yeah, you have that bass line, and then we're just layering it with this mental plugin that I guess is meant to simulate kind of a Moog, but I don't know, it just hits 10 times harder. So I'll show you that one without that. And this, I don't really know where this synth came from, but it just hits so hard. I moved from this one onto the Moog from the UAD plugins, but this one hits really, really hard, and you know, you can really push it, which is kind of the whole idea of a lot of the new music, is really fucking pushing it to its limit. So I'll just show you. Absolutely, you can just send it. And I think, yeah, I've just got some automation. That's actually coming in the intro as well, just pulsing, I think. So yeah, there's nothing really changing with the drums throughout the whole thing. There are some breath takes, I think, that I did that are in the final but are muted here. Yeah. So they're just layering up with the drums. And they're in the final version. Yeah, the vocals, I just wanted to make them super dry. Feel like I'm an animal. And they're panned pretty hard either side. And they're kind of just really dry. They've got a bit of saturation on the top, just to like make them a little bit more punchy. I guess like trying to simulate a distressor or something. So yeah, that was the aim, was having it massive and then just like pulling it in. Yeah, that's basically from that we've broken it down to then try and build it back up to get to a chorus version of the intro, which we do. I had a few octave takes above. Tell me you're unstoppable. Oh no, not octave takes. I had a few extra distorted kind of stereos that are panned all the way with harder distortion and a little room as well on them. Tell me you're unstoppable. Pairing it with the bass. Tell me you're unstoppable. Just staying still there. And then this next section, which is yeah, so I would say that this one's a little bit more like a pre, and the melody doesn't change, the chords don't change, but the production starts to build a little bit. I mean, it's so sparse production wise, that is it, which is pretty fucking mental to see it now, because it just feels so much bigger. I think a lot of the work is in the vocals more so than the production, which is crazy. For me, I feel like my favorite songs that I make, it takes me like an hour to do, and then it's just months of perfecting. My favorite kind of thing that we're adding is these really, really short samples that I've just looped and distorted, I think. Yeah, distorted. And again, it's just Saturn. I think it's just a fucking great little plugin. It's really simple. And it came with my reverb, so I just went with it. So to add a bit of pace, we've got one of the lines is repeating every I think that's a 16th note, and then the other one is repeating every 8th note. Yeah. So it takes a lot of this sort of stuff that I love to add into the songs, takes a lot from kind of like Bonobo and Max Cooper and the more kind of electronic world that I used to sit in, especially with my old music. So it's been, for this song, it was really cool to learn to like merge those two things. So yeah, we've got those going on, which just continually get bigger. Essentially just, completely open up and just become completely dry. And then we've got a tom, which is a little trick that I kind of figured out, is if you add like a tom or like something hitting on every 16th note that's super like short, it just adds a bit of urgency to the song, and I don't know why, but it's almost like subconscious, but it just feels really cool. So yeah, I added that in. You can't really hear it in the mix. You can. So yeah, and we essentially with the music, I think it's all of that plugin. Yeah, we're literally just looping or adding textures and extra levels of that plugin. I think that's probably that's the Super 6. Yeah, so that's just the Super 6, absolutely fucking with the LFO. And that's just kind of the beginning of it. So we were here. So the bass goes from that original into a held note. Yeah, and we just start to add that kind of drone up and down, which feels like a siren, which subconsciously makes you panic. At least it makes me panic. Not that I need to be scared, but there you go. And yeah, the vocals start to get layered a little bit more. Everything impossible. Yeah, so I kind of kept these quite rough, and it goes from quite an angry voice to a bit of a softer voice, which is cool. I think that's fun. It kind of lets you know that something's changed in the song, because a lot of the elements that come in now are pretty subconscious. They're not really, you can't hear them crazily. So yeah, we're going into that pre. Everything impossible. I wish that I could see it all. And yeah, and in the mix we have a few extra vocals. I think I kind of redid these more recently so that the voice felt more aligned with me. So yeah, then we go into bringing Animal back in, and basically just, you can see there, kind of just, building it as much as we can. Yeah, so that comes like filtered in and out. Again, in the mix, I think that's changed because it just felt a bit messy. But this is essentially when we see all of the vocals come together. Yeah, so that's just doing its thing and kind of building the energy. And yeah, we bring back the Super 6, but we've just washed it the fuck out, really, and trying to build a bit of a texture. Again, quite subconscious, but definitely builds the tension. Yeah, and then one of my favourite parts is here, I'm not gonna lie, it's really, these vocals were really important to me, and I really wanted to get them in. I wanted them to be as big as possible, so it kind of harks back to music that I used to release, to have the melody was very similar to some of my older songs, and as well it just has a lot of delay on it, and there's no panning on this, but there is again in the mix. But yeah, so
If only knew how.
Yeah, so we're just punching it a bit. I think I was using a U67 or U87 with a CL1B compressor, and then the Teletronics LA2A on console, and just really fucking pushing that mic to its limits. And then we're just using a preset on Timeless to just add that width. And this is kind of one of my go-to presets. I just love the dotted eighths, especially when you've got pretty much everything else doing straight 16ths or eighths. It just allows it to glide in between the things that you're doing. I think that we didn't end up using this. So this part is. So these are a lot clearer in the final mix, but this is kind of the penultimate part of the song. And one of my favorite things to try and do is, like I was saying earlier, like push it all the fucking way, like push it to the absolute limit. And I think the natural kind of progression is obviously I start repeating the "From You Now" over and over again, and just I think I fuck with the delay quite a lot. Actually, I don't touch the delay. So that just kind of keeps repeating. And then this Super 6 line that comes in earlier, and obviously I think it's much lower in this section. Yeah, it's a bit more reverbed out, I think. No, it's the same. So we kind of start teasing this lead a little bit more. And I think it's really nice because melodically, when the bass moves, the synth moves, but in a different way. And I think this must have been just, I was just jamming around on it and kind of found this melody, which I just love. It feels really similar to the start, like really cinematic, and it just slaps. And then in the spirit of trying to push things to the absolute limit, it's like after you've repeated those lyrics like so many times and you're like screaming at Animal, what can you really do? Like, you're literally at that point. I mean, obviously production wise I could do so much more, but like vocally, lyrically, there's not really anywhere else you can go with it. So I start to kind of filter out the Animals and try at least to replace it with this one, with that synth that we were teasing there. And I think this is All the Way Open, just absolutely fucking rinsing it of its last breath to try and just be as dramatic as possible. Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. So that's kind of the point. This is like the peak of the song. I can't really repeat any more words. I've run out of lyric ideas. I can't write music anymore, so I'm just going to start ripping it on the synth. And that's what I tried to do. So everything's going a bit mad, I think. The distortion on the repeated synths are going crazy. The drums haven't been touched because I'm lazy. The filters on all the synths are just pumped all the way open. Yeah. On that one. Oh, that's a Serum plugin. Yeah, so that one's just... Yeah. So it's doing like a EDM super saw or something. I literally never use that sound anymore. That's crazy. That's just building tension. The bass, filthy, all the way open. The drone, the sirens are popping the fuck off. And then the main lead is there. And yeah, it's all happening. But one of the things for me is also like performing it live is such an exciting idea, and this part of the song especially, it kind of opens the doors to do some really crazy stuff with it, and just be able to really like build a moment for people to kind of feel almost validated, which is what this song is about, and like validating your feelings that maybe have been, I don't know, like gaslit out of you, or you're told that you're wrong, or that you shouldn't feel a certain way like you can. And hopefully, you know, if this was able to go into a live setup, especially with this section, you know, we're working on it now, and having that kind of thing just going off is exciting, you know. So yeah, after that you can't really push it much further. I literally had no idea where to go, so I decided, like, let's just go back to the start but make it much drier. So I think the reverb is all the way 100%, but it's literally 0.2 seconds long, so it's like being in a cupboard with me screaming animal, which is pretty terrifying for anyone, to be honest, especially, you know, yeah, that's a scary idea. So we go from massive, yeah, and then yeah, we just crash out. So yeah, the bass is still all the way open. The drums are not moving or changing at all. And then yeah, it's really simple finish. It's just these vocals, I think, with a bit of gain reduction on them. Or maybe I re-recorded them, I'm not too sure. Still with the choir, there's still like a million me's in your cupboard screaming animal at you, but it's drier and it's a little bit more brutal. So yeah. Yeah, the least dramatic ending to the most dramatic song I've ever made. There's not really much to break down in this part. It's pretty simple. The filter closes all the way, the bass disappears, and you're left, instead of with a million versions of me screaming animal at you, just one guy screaming animal at you, but with a really big kind of push on that mid-range on Saturn, just to really kind of, I don't know, like round it out and scare you a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, you see, I could have pushed that more, but we're not going to try and kill your eardrums. So yeah, that is a very quick breakdown of Animal.